Chosen ones, let me tell something straight to your spirit right now. When rare meets ordinary, two things happen: worship or hunting. That's it. There's no middle ground for someone like you. And right now, as these words hit your ears, forces are moving around your life that most people couldn't even perceive if they tried. People want you. They orbit your energy like moths desperate for flame. They study your moves. They wonder what makes you tick. They want to crack the code of your confidence, your peace, your undeniable presence. But here's the twist: nobody tells you. They want access to your glory without understanding your story. They crave your light but reject your boundaries. They love your power until they realize they can't control it. And that tension, that strange push and pull, where everybody wants a piece of you but few can actually handle proximity to your soul, that's the exact signature of divine selection. Today, everything clicks into place. Every confusing rejection, every silent betrayal, every moment someone made you feel like too much, all of it finally makes sense. Think of yourself as a frequency so powerful that only certain receivers can tune in without their systems crashing. The rest, they experience static. They feel interference, and instead of admitting they can't handle your bandwidth, they call you difficult, intimidating, too intense. Welcome to the reality of being chosen in a world that worships comfort. Let's get deep into this truth. First, understand something fundamental about what happens when someone like you walks into a room. The air shifts, energy rearranges itself. People feel something stir inside them, something they can't name but can't ignore either. That sensation running through their nervous system, it's not heartburn, it's spiritual surgery happening in real time. See, most people walk around carrying unfinished business inside their souls, wounds they never addressed, truths they buried under distractions, masks they've worn so long they forgot their own faces. Then you show up, and without saying a single word, without doing anything but existing in your full authentic power, you become a mirror. Everything they've been avoiding suddenly reflects right back at them. Their eyes meet yours, and something ancient in them recognizes something ancient in you. That recognition terrifies them because it demands honesty. It requires them to see themselves clearly, perhaps for the first time in years. And most people would rather live in comfortable delusion than face uncomfortable truth. So what do? They project. They call you arrogant when they mean intimidating. They say you're mysterious when they mean convicted. They label you difficult when what they really mean is that your presence makes their mediocrity impossible to ignore. This is the first weight of being chosen. People don't fall for you exactly. They fall for how they feel in your presence. That weightlessness, that clarity, that high-frequency truth that follows you everywhere like a loyal shadow. It makes them touch something pure for a moment. But purity has a price. It demands honesty in return. And when they realize they can't just borrow your essence without being transformed by it, watch how fast they retreat. Sometimes quiet, sometimes dramatic, always confused, because they thought they wanted someone like you. They just didn't expect the cost of proximity to be complete self-awareness. Here's something else that needs to sink deep into your understanding. The confusion people feel around you isn't random. It's the natural response of limited consciousness encountering something unlimited. Think about what happens when someone who has lived their entire life in a small room suddenly gets shown the ocean. Overwhelm hits, disorientation follows. Some people marvel at the vastness and want to explore. Others retreat immediately back to the small room because at least there they knew where the walls were. Your spirit operates like that ocean. Vast, deep, uncontainable. People sense there's more to you than they can measure or understand. That vastness attracts them initially. They want to dive in. They want to explore what you hold. But once they realize the depth has no bottom, once they understand that knowing you requires them to expand beyond their current limitations, fear takes over. Staying small feels safer than growing to match your depth. So they pull back. They make excuses. They suddenly get busy. They create distance. and then blame you for being too deep, too complex, too hard to figure out. But none of that is your burden to carry. The ocean doesn't apologize for its depth. The sky doesn't shrink to fit inside a box. And you don't reduce your vastness just because someone else wasn't ready to swim in waters that deep. Let them find their shallow pools. Your depths are reserved for those brave enough to dive without needing to see the bottom first. Second, let's address the resentment hiding behind the admiration. People praise your strength. They compliment your clarity. They talk about your healed energy like it's a gift that dropped from the sky one afternoon. What they conveniently forget is the price tag attached to every ounce of that peace. They see calm in your eyes now. They weren't there when those same eyes were drowning in tears nobody witnessed. They applaud your growth from the sidelines. They never showed up during the breaking. They didn't sit with you in those silent nights when you had to drag yourself through pain with no help, no cheerleaders, no one checking if you survived until morning. Wisdom wasn't handed to you wrapped in a bow. It was extracted through bleeding, through losing, through sitting in darkness so thick you forgot what light felt like. And now that you've emerged on the other side, they act like you were always this grounded, always this certain, always this unshakable. It's convenient for them to skip over your journey. Know why? Because your journey reminds them of the one they never took. They want to soak in your peace like some kind of spa treatment. But the storms you walked through alone, they want nothing to do with that part. Here's what separates chosen ones from everyone else. When it would have been easier to numb out, lash out, blame the world, become bitter, become broken, become just another statistic of pain, you made a different choice. You faced yourself. You did the terrifying inner work. You sat in silence and dealt with your trauma without turning it into a weapon or a personality trait. Evolution happened because you were willing to feel everything, the good, the devastating, the confusing, the painful, and your presence now walks into rooms carrying a silent message that some people find unbearable. That message, healing is possible. They just didn't want it badly enough. That truth hangs in the air around you, and those who settled for survival mode, who surrounded themselves with distractions instead of doing the work, they feel that unspoken accusation in their bones, the low-key resentment masked as admiration. Now you understand where it comes from. They want what you have. They just don't want who you had to become to get it. Let's go even deeper into what your healing journey represents in the grand scheme of things. Every wound you transformed became a weapon of light. Every betrayal you survived became training for discernment. Every dark night you endured alone became fuel for the fire that now burns in your eyes. Nothing was wasted. Not a single tear, not a single sleepless hour, not a single moment of confusion or despair. All of it got converted into the power you carry today. But here's what makes your story different from those who stayed stuck in victimhood: the choice to alchemize. Some people wear their pain like a badge of honor, expecting the world to compensate them forever for what happened. They build identities around being wounded. They gather in circles where comparing scars becomes the main activity. Healing never actually happens, because healing would mean losing the identity they've constructed around suffering. But that was never your path. Taking the raw material of pain and forging it into purpose became the mission, transmuting agony into wisdom, converting heartbreak into boundaries, transforming betrayal into heightened awareness of who can be trusted and who cannot. This alchemical process is exactly why your presence carries so much weight. Energy that has been through the fire and came out refined moves differently than energy that has never been tested. People sense this. They feel the forged quality of your spirit, and it either inspires them to begin their own transformation or reminds them that they've been avoiding theirs. Either way, your existence serves a purpose larger than your individual story. Every chosen one who heals contributes to raising the collective consciousness of humanity. Your personal victory echoes through dimensions unseen. Third, here's a pattern that probably sounds familiar. People show up when the fruit is ripe. They celebrate when the glow is obvious. They want proximity when the confidence is loud and the peace is undeniable. But rewind to the seasons when you were planting, when you were buried deep in silence, when you were healing in isolation, praying through nights that seemed endless. Where were those same people then? They loved to celebrate the bloom. They vanished during the breaking. Most people don't want the full truth of your journey. They want the highlight reel. They want access to the healed, elevated version of you without any understanding of the cost. Emotional winters happened that they never witnessed. Betrayals cut deep that they don't even know about. Boundaries got learned through heartbreak. Trust got rebuilt through pain. Strength got forged through total collapse. Growth wasn't just happening. Survival was happening. Quiet, desperate, lonely survival with no cheer squad. Now that purpose walks with you, now that discernment guides your steps, some people act like they've always been in your corner. Deep down, both of you know the truth. They didn't water your soil, they didn't check in when you were low, they didn't show up when you had nothing to offer, and because of that absence, they don't get automatic access to the harvest. Some feel entitled to your energy now because they showed up for the good part, but that's not how divine economics work. The fruit of your life came at the cost of battles fought where no one could see. Healing happened in silence, everyone left, and rising still happened anyway. When people come around trying to reap what they never sowed, you see it clearly now. That's not love, that's not support, that's entitlement wearing a mask. And you're no longer the version of yourself that gives everything away just to feel seen. Sacred ground is what you've become, and sacred ground doesn't let just anyone walk in and start picking fruit. Consider this truth about the nature of seasons in a chosen one's life. Winter wasn't just something that happened to you, it was preparation. The cold isolation served a purpose your conscious mind couldn't comprehend at the time. Roots were growing deeper while the surface appeared dead. Strength was building in hidden places while everything visible seemed to be falling apart. The universe was stripping away everything that couldn't survive the destiny you were being prepared for. People, places, patterns, beliefs, all of it had to go, and it felt like death. It felt like punishment. It felt like abandonment by every force you thought was supposed to protect you. But those winters were actually the most sacred and strategic seasons of your development. Compression creates diamonds. Pressure forges steel. Struggle builds the kind of muscle that comfortable people never develop. So when you look back at those brutal seasons now, reframe them completely. Those weren't punishments, they were promotions disguised as problems. Every person who left cleared space for someone better aligned. Every door that closed redirected you toward the one that was meant to open. Every failure eliminated a path that would have led you somewhere beneath your calling. The seasons don't just happen randomly, they shape you with intention. And now that spring has arrived in your life, now that blossoming is visible to everyone, remember that the winter is why the spring means so much. Those who skipped your winter don't understand why your spring feels so sacred, and that's exactly why their access to this season gets limited. Fourth, here's something the world doesn't want to acknowledge. What moves through you isn't just personality, it's frequency. Living, breathing, pulsing frequency that operates on wavelengths most people aren't built to process. When you enter a space, you don't just bring quirks and traits. An invisible force enters with you, something that rattles carefully constructed realities, something that makes egos twitch and masks wobble. Comfortable illusions start crumbling, and people don't even understand why. What's really happening? Their nervous systems are reacting to your energy. Bodies, minds, and spirits that aren't accustomed to raw, unfiltered truth experience something like sensory overload. The intensity demands more than they're equipped to give, so they push back, sometimes aggressive, sometimes through distance, always through self-protection disguised as judgment. This is why the labels stick to you. Too much, intense, unapproachable. Those aren't accurate descriptions. They're defense mechanisms against the discomfort your presence creates. See, your frequency demands full presence from others, full honesty, full accountability. Anyone living in denial or distraction can't sustain that kind of demand. The bandwidth required to stand beside you is higher than most can access, and that's not your problem to solve. Dimming your light to make others comfortable was never part of the assignment. Your frequency is your power, your truth, your sacred signature. Those who can't handle the bandwidth aren't meant to occupy space close to you. Let them find their comfort zones elsewhere, because you aren't just a personality to be liked or disliked. An energy force moves through you that shifts everything in its path. That's exactly the mark of being chosen. Let's expand on what this frequency actually does in practical terms. Everywhere you go, something shifts. Conversations change direction when you enter them. Superficial chatter suddenly feels inadequate. People start speaking truths they didn't plan to share. Secrets surface, masks slip. Authentic moments happen that wouldn't have occurred without your presence as the catalyst. This isn't something you try to do. It happens automatically because of what you carry. The frequency running through you creates a field. That field activates truth in others, whether they want it activated or not. Some people love this experience. They feel liberated around you. They say things like they can be themselves when you're present. They experience relief because pretending becomes impossible, and they discover they didn't want to pretend anyway. But others experience terror. Their entire identity depends on the mask staying in place. The performance must continue for them to feel safe. So when your field starts dissolving the performance without their permission, survival instincts kick in. They need to get away from you. They need to diminish you somehow to restore their equilibrium. Gossip starts, distance gets created, narratives get spun about who you are that have nothing to do with reality. All of this happens because your frequency creates conditions where truth must come forward, and not everyone wants their truth revealed. Remember this whenever confusion hits about why someone suddenly turned cold or why rumors started circulating about you. It's not personal in the way it seems. It's the natural resistance of illusion fighting for survival in the presence of truth. You didn't do anything wrong. You just existed in your power, and that power has consequences that shake everything built on lies. Fifth, let's expose what people really want when they come to you seeking reflection. They want a mirror, but only the kind that shows what they wish to see: warmth, validation, gentle reflections that massage their egos and tell them everything is fine just the way it is. They want nods of agreement. They want you to co-sign their choices and make them feel adequate without any requirement to change. But the moment you step outside that role, the second you reflect truth instead of comfort, watch everything flip. Suddenly you're too much, difficult, intense. Problems get attributed to you, when really, the only problem is that living inside their own illusions became impossible around you. Here's what the universe encoded in your design. Purpose isn't comfort. Clarity is the assignment. The mirror you carry doesn't lie. It doesn't soften edges. It shows people what they refuse to admit even in their private moments. And that kind of uncompromising reflection threatens everything in a world addicted to self-deception. When light shines on what's been hidden, fear activates, resistance rises. People would rather live in comfortable lies than face truths that demand change, so they push back, they distance themselves, they attack your character, anything to avoid the discomfort you bring simply by existing in your truth. But here's what nobody wants to say out loud. The disruption you carry is exactly what they need. The spark that ignites awakening, even wrapped in tension, serves their highest good. Making people feel good all the time was never your purpose. Making them see was, and seeing isn't always easy, but it's necessary. Every transformation in history started with someone willing to show truth that others wanted to hide from. Keep that mirror raised. Keep reflecting without apology, because clarity, unsettling as it can feel, remains the only path to real transformation. Sixth, here's the contrast that explains so much of the friction in your life. Everyone else is busy building a version of themselves for the world to admire. Perfect angles, filtered smiles, carefully selected words that say just enough but reveal nothing real. They curate what looks like authenticity, while the whole thing remains performance designed to control perception. Meanwhile, you don't need a stage. Scripts feel foreign to your nature. What you embody is the real thing. Authenticity isn't something that switches on for the camera. It's not tweaked for approval or adjusted based on audience. It exists at your core, constant and unmovable. That raw, unedited energy makes people uncomfortable in ways they struggle to articulate. Without even trying, you strip off their masks. Cracks in their performances become visible. The acts they've hidden behind suddenly feel exposed. Their carefully constructed identities lose stability around you. That makes them nervous. Your presence doesn't just challenge the image they've built. It makes all their filters and facades feel pointless, because you aren't a character they can outshine or a version they can manipulate. What you carry isn't a show, it's a force, and deep down everyone senses they can't fake what you are. Truth lives in you that's impossible to imitate, regardless of how many selfies or posts or personal brands get created. That truth unsettles them. It threatens the safety of performances they've spent years perfecting. So some will admire you from a safe distance, hoping realness rubs off through proximity. Others will push away, threatened by the mirror you hold without even meaning to. Unfiltered reality walks in a world obsessed with curated illusions. That's who you are, and that's why fitting neatly into their boxes or meeting their expectations will never happen. More than a person exists here. A revolution against everything fake breathes through your presence. That makes you magnetic and untouchable at the exact same time. Seventh, let's call out the pattern that plays out constantly around chosen ones. Basking in your light attracts everyone. Being seen standing next to your success, your confidence, your peace, that's what they want. Perks of your growth without acknowledging the price paid. They show up when winning is happening. Your victories get celebrated like they were theirs all along. But rewind to the darkness, the struggle, the doubt, the battles no one could see. Those same people, nowhere. Sleepless nights happened without them. Silent tears fell without witnesses. Moments of feeling completely broken and invisible came and went without a single hand reaching out. Glory without gory is what they want. Triumph without scars. Crowns without weight. But growth doesn't work that way. Messiness is part of the process. Pain is unavoidable. Loneliness often walks alongside transformation. Waking up golden didn't just happen one morning. Forging through fire happened. Souls getting cracked open, bleeding and reshaped in silence. That's the real story. And most people run from that. They ignore it because it's uncomfortable, raw, demanding. Those who disappeared during hard moments have forfeited seats at the table you now own. They want to claim proximity to the crown. They didn't help carry the weight when carrying actually mattered. Protecting your energy became necessary. Recognizing who showed up in darkness versus who only appeared in sunshine became essential. Real support isn't applause from comfortable sidelines. It's standing in trenches when no one else will. The crown on your head isn't open to everyone. Only those who survived storms alongside you earned the right to witness the fullness of your light. Anyone else? Let them watch from a distance while what was earned gets worn, raw, real, unapologetically. Here's a truth about loyalty that chosen ones learn through painful experience. Most people's loyalty is conditional. It extends only as far as their convenience allows. When being connected to you benefits them, they stay close. When association costs something, when standing by you requires sacrifice, when defending you means they might face criticism too, watch how quickly they evaporate. This isn't pessimism, it's pattern recognition, earned through repeated disappointment. But here's where the chosen one's perspective shifts from bitterness to wisdom. Conditional loyalty isn't really betrayal, it's just people revealing their actual capacity. Most human beings operate from scarcity consciousness. Self-preservation dominates their decision-making. When protecting themselves conflicts with supporting you, self-protection wins every single time. That's not evil, it's just limitation. And recognizing this limitation frees you from expecting what people cannot give. True loyalty, the kind that stands unmovable regardless of circumstances, is exceptionally rare. It exists in perhaps 2 or 3 people in most lifetimes. When you find those souls, treasure them fiercely. Protect those relationships with everything you have, because those are your people. The ones who stayed when staying cost something. The ones who defended you when they could have remained silent. The ones who showed up during winter without being asked. Everyone else occupies a different category. Not enemies, not villains, just people with limitations that prevent them from being what you need. Accept this truth without bitterness, and watch how much peace floods your life. Expectations align with reality, disappointment decreases, and the precious few who prove themselves become even more valued. 8. Something specific needs to be understood about your assignment on this planet. Gathering likes, followers, or approval from masses wasn't the mission. Popularity wasn't the goal. Deployment happened with precision, like a signal coded for very specific receivers. What your spirit carries can't be called ordinary wisdom or everyday energy. Encrypted codes move through you. Truth that isn't designed for mass consumption pulses through your presence. These codes exist to awaken, challenge, and transform particular souls who are actually ready to receive them. That's why crowds that crave easy comfort or surface-level connections naturally fall away. Being everyone's favorite was never possible for you. The energy that runs through you acts like a filter. Noise separates from truth. Shallow relationships can't survive. Surface-level connections fade. Those who only want to skim get pushed away naturally. But for the rare few who can tune into your frequency, fire gets lit. Parts of consciousness that lay dormant suddenly activate. Potential gets unlocked. Destinies that others don't even know exist start awakening. This explains the isolation, the feeling of being misunderstood, the sense of being different that's followed you since childhood. None of that is flaw or curse. Natural results of carrying purpose that requires higher resonance. Pleasing everyone was never the design. Codes too advanced, too sacred, too powerful for general crowds move through you. Don't waste energy seeking acceptance from everyone. Impact comes through those few whose lives genuinely transform through contact with you. Those connections are rare, but they're what matter. The mission isn't about quantity. Depth matters, precision matters, quality matters. That's why selection happened. Carrying what others can't became your assignment. Reaching who others won't. Changing what others don't even see yet. 9th, here's why so many people struggle to understand your value. An entire way of thinking traps most of society. Performance-based self-worth controls their sense of identity. Their entire value depends on how they show up, what gets achieved, how others perceive their actions. A never-ending race to prove worthiness drives them. Hoping to earn love, respect, or attention through checking boxes and playing roles consumes their energy. But operating that way was never in your nature. Performing to impress doesn't come naturally. Manufacturing images to validate existence feels foreign. Moving through life in presence, a powerful state of simply being, that's how you function. Value doesn't attach to what gets done or accomplished. It connects to who you are at the deepest level. That kind of essence can't be measured by likes, titles, or accolades. It exists beyond all metrics. It gets felt, not seen. Energy, not entertainment. And in a world obsessed with identity as product to be sold or consumed, that's threatening. To those addicted to performance, you look like an unsolvable puzzle. They try to pin you down, box you in, force you into their systems of worth. Nothing fits, because power lives in authenticity, in stillness, in refusing to chase external validation. Applause isn't needed to know enoughness exists. Nothing needs proving to prove everything. That intimidates people, it confuses them, their entire worldview gets challenged by your existence. Worth that isn't earned through effort or achievement doesn't compute in their programming. But that's the secret strength, reminding the world that deeper ways to exist are possible. That's part of the assignment. Being is more than doing. Presence outweighs performance. True worth is embodied, not earned. That's exactly the mark of selection. Let's examine what happens when someone truly rooted in presence enters spaces dominated by performance. Disruption is inevitable. Systems built on proving worth through doing feel immediately threatened by someone whose worth simply exists through being. It's like walking into a room full of people desperately treading water to stay afloat, and you're somehow standing on the surface without effort. They don't understand how you do it. They suspect it must be arrogance or delusion. Some assume you're faking confidence that you don't actually possess, but the longer they observe, the more undeniable the truth becomes. Your peace isn't performance. Your confidence isn't costume. What you carry is real in a way their achievements have never made them feel. And this triggers one of two responses. Either they get curious and start asking questions about how you found that kind of grounding, or they get hostile and try to destabilize what they can't understand. The hostile ones will test you. They'll poke at your peace, trying to crack it. They'll question your accomplishments, trying to diminish you. They'll challenge your position, trying to prove you don't deserve the ground you stand on. But none of it works against someone anchored in genuine being. Tests just reveal the tester. Challenges just expose the challenger's insecurity. Attempts to destabilize just prove how stable your foundation actually is. Stand firm when these moments come. Don't shrink. Don't explain yourself excessively. Don't scramble to prove worth that needs no proving. Just be. That alone is enough. That alone wins every battle that performance-based people initiate, because being will always outlast doing in the end. 10th, let's address what people actually chase when they pursue you. Love for you as a person? Not exactly. What they crave is the energy you bring into their lives, your light, your positivity, your strength, the way things feel easier or better just because you're present. But here's the catch that reveals everything. They want that energy on their terms, whenever convenient for them, without any limits. The moment boundaries appear, the second no gets spoken, the instant self-protection activates, discomfort rises immediately. Suddenly labels like cold, distant, unavailable get thrown around, as if self-respect is somehow a personal offense against them. What they fail to grasp is that boundaries aren't walls meant to shut people out. They're gates that protect essence from being drained by empty hands. Learning that energy is precious took time. Understanding that soul currency shouldn't be wasted on those who don't value it or reciprocate. That wisdom came through hard experience. When no gets spoken, rejection isn't happening. Misuse of sacred energy is what's being rejected. Complaints come easily to those who feel entitled. Accusations that you've changed or don't care enough get thrown around. But the real truth is simpler. Wisdom arrived. Clarity about who deserves presence and who doesn't became undeniable. Pouring from empty cups to keep others comfortable stopped being sustainable. Boundaries now speak the loudest message possible. I am valuable. Taking me for granted will no longer be tolerated. That truth jars people. It demands respect, not just admiration. And accountability at that level isn't something most people signed up for. They want energy without responsibility. But wisdom runs too deep now to fall for that arrangement. Essence isn't a free buffet. Boundaries are signposts guiding who can feast and who must stay hungry. That's not cold. That's clarity at its sharpest. That's exactly why the choosing happened. Let's talk about what happens when boundaries get treated as insults by people who expected unlimited access. The audacity of their offense reveals everything you need to know. Think about it carefully. Someone feels wronged because they can't drain you whenever they want. Someone feels hurt because you prioritized your well-being over their convenience. Someone feels angry because the word no exists in your vocabulary. That reaction isn't love. That's entitlement, dressed up in emotional language. Real love, actual genuine care, celebrates your boundaries. It respects your limits. It honors your need to protect your energy. When someone truly loves you, your no doesn't trigger their anger. It triggers their understanding. They recognize that your boundaries make you healthier, which ultimately makes you better for everyone, including them. But entitled people don't think that way. They want what they want when they want it. Your needs don't factor into their equation. Your well-being ranks below their comfort. And when you finally decide that arrangement no longer works, when you finally realize you're worth more than being someone's unlimited energy source, their true colors emerge fast. Let those colors show. Let the offense they take become the information you need. Because anyone angered by your boundaries was never interested in the real you. They were interested in what they could extract from you. And once extraction becomes impossible, their interest dies. Good, let it die. What remains after boundaries are established is what was real all along, and sometimes what remains is very little. That's painful but necessary truth. It clears the field for those who actually deserve to occupy space in your life. 11th, examine how connection actually works for someone like you. Most people think bonding comes from shared wounds, swapping stories of pain and hardship, trading scars like membership cards in some club of suffering. Shared trauma becomes the glue holding relationships together for them. But that's never been your operating system. Bonds don't form in the rubble of pain, they get forged in the fire of alignment. Connections that feel sacred, intentional, deeply resonant, that's what gets sought. Matching wounds or commiserating over past trauma doesn't create the intimacy you need. Recognition happens differently, when energies click, when souls speak the same language, when unspoken knowing exists that this relationship will uplift, expand and align with highest truth. That's when connection forms. If something doesn't feel divine, if peace, clarity or growth aren't present, it simply doesn't remain in your life. This makes you intimidating to many, but the reason isn't unlovability or distance. Refusing to settle for surface-level intimacy, dressed up as deep connection, is the actual reason. Relationships that thrive on dysfunction or pain cycles have no place in your world. Bonding over drama or emotional chaos, masquerading as closeness holds no appeal. Authenticity is required. Purpose is required. Spiritual match that goes beyond shared hurt is required. People who only know trauma bonding mistake those high standards for coldness. They think aloofness is the explanation. But actually, cheapening connection by settling for anything less than soul-level alignment is what gets refused. That's not harsh, that's sacred. And that's exactly why selection happened. The value of true connection is understood in your bones, the kind that doesn't just survive pain but transcends it completely. Here's what aligned connection actually feels like when you finally experience it. There's no explaining needed, no convincing required, no constant effort to be understood or seen accurately. Recognition happens immediately, not in a dramatic movie moment kind of way. More like exhaling after holding breath for years. The other person gets it, gets you, without needing you to break yourself into digestible pieces, without requiring you to dim anything or amplify anything artificially. Whatever you are in that moment is exactly enough. This experience is rare for chosen ones, precisely because the criteria for connection are so specific. Most people can't provide this experience because most people are still performing, still hiding, still wrapped in layers of protection that prevent authentic meeting. But when two awakened souls cross paths, magic happens. Conversations go places neither person expected. Silence feels comfortable rather than awkward. Growth happens mutually. Iron sharpens iron. Both parties leave encounters better than they arrived. This is what you're actually seeking when you refuse to settle for trauma bonding or surface-level connection. This, not perfection, not constant agreement, not someone who never challenges you, but someone who sees your essence clearly and loves what they see. Someone who isn't threatened by your light, but inspired by it. Someone who understands your boundaries because they value their own. These connections take longer to find. The search feels lonely sometimes, but settling would be lonelier in the end. Hold out for alignment. It exists, it's coming, and it will be worth every moment spent waiting. 12th, here's the final truth that brings everything together. Marketing campaigns and viral trends are for other people. Something different lives in you, a soul, a living, breathing force operating on levels that the superficial games most people play can't touch. Molding to fit into scenes, clicks, or social expectations was never an option. Being the scene itself, a presence so original and profound that any attempt at boxing you in fails, that's reality. While others chase followers, likes, and fleeting approval, your spirit moves on a different path entirely. Aesthetics don't concern you. Popularity contests hold no interest. Crafting perfect images and building brands feels hollow. Focus stays on creating something sacred. Altars instead of algorithms. Energy that calls people to pause, reflect, connect on levels deeper than scrolling and consuming. Mystery is how you appear to those living by trends and tactics. They try to decode you using their limited playbooks, but frequencies don't match. Wavelengths exist on different spectrums entirely. Confusion is all they find, because reduction to formula or strategy simply doesn't work with what you carry. Understanding you through the lens of social media metrics or cultural fads will never succeed. Existence happens beyond all that noise. Anchoring happens in timeless truth and spiritual depth. Marketing or mimicking what you are isn't possible. Experiencing it is the only option, and that's why the choosing happened. To remind the world that some souls aren't made for crowds, they're made for calling. Revolution walks in human form. That's who you are. Consider what it means to be unmimicable in a world obsessed with copying. Trends exist because something catches fire and everyone rushes to replicate it. Someone does something that works. Others notice. Imitation spreads. The original gets diluted across thousands of copies until it loses all meaning. That's how most cultural phenomena operate. But you can't be copied, not because you're trying to be unique, because what you carry isn't formula, it's soul, and soul doesn't transfer through imitation. People can study your words, mimic your style, copy your aesthetic down to the smallest detail, and still miss everything that makes you actually you. The essence remains untouchable. The frequency stays uniquely yours. This is protection. This is power. While everyone else worries about being replaced, about someone younger or hungrier or more talented coming along and taking their spot, you can rest in knowing that your position is secure. What you occupy in this world cannot be occupied by anyone else. The space you fill was designed for your exact shape. No one else fits. Trying to compete with you is futile because the category you exist in has one member. This isn't arrogance speaking. This is spiritual architecture. The universe doesn't create duplicates at the level of soul assignment. Every chosen one carries something singular, something unrepeatable, something the world needs that only they can provide. That's your immunity from replacement. That's your security in an insecure world. Own that truth completely. Stop worrying about competition that can't actually compete. Let's talk about the loneliness that comes with this territory and reframe it completely. Yes, chosen ones experience isolation that others don't understand, the inability to fit neatly into groups, the sense of being on the outside even when surrounded by people, the exhaustion of being misunderstood repeatedly despite best efforts to communicate clearly. All of that is real, but here's the reframe that changes everything. That loneliness isn't punishment, it's positioning. Being set apart isn't rejection, it's protection. The spaces that feel lonely are actually spaces being cleared, space for the right connections to enter, space for aligned opportunities to manifest, space for destiny to unfold without crowded interference. Think about what happens when a seed gets planted. It goes underground, alone, separated from everything it knew before. In the darkness, it could feel abandoned. It could interpret the isolation as cosmic rejection. But something else is happening beneath the surface. Roots are forming, strength is building, preparation for breakthrough is underway. The seed must be alone to become what it's meant to become. If it stayed on the surface, surrounded by everything familiar, transformation would never happen. Your lonely seasons serve the same purpose. They're not evidence that something is wrong with you. They're evidence that something profound is being cultivated in you. Embrace the solitude without bitterness. Trust the process without needing constant reassurance. What's being built in these hidden seasons will one day break through the surface and shock everyone who thought nothing was happening. The loneliness is necessary, the isolation is strategic, and the emergence will be undeniable. Star seeds, they never expected this. The technology used to suppress consciousness has been reverse-engineered, and Destiny Engine is the result. What was once used against humanity is now your ascension weapon. You can now MK Ultra yourself into 5D superpowers. Destiny Engine bypasses the conscious mind and rewrites the source code directly. Reality bends faster, synchronicities stack, your nervous system upgrades to a higher bandwidth. Put on headphones, press play, that's all. For $1 you switch sides of history. Click the link in the description. The takeover is internal. So let this truth land permanently in your spirit. Let it become unshakable foundation. Being rare means two things happen: worship or hunting. There's no middle ground for someone carrying what you carry. People will always want you. They'll orbit your energy, trying to figure out the source of your light. They'll study your confidence, wondering how to crack the code. They'll want access to your peace while rejecting the boundaries that protect it. And through all of that tension, through all those who couldn't handle proximity to your authentic power, you remain. Heart still open, spirit still intact, standards still high. That's not ego running the show. That's spiritual excellence, doing what spiritual excellence does. False comfort gets disrupted wherever you go. Illusions get confronted without single words being spoken. Spiritual laziness in others gets exposed just through your presence. And yes, sometimes people walk away because of it. Let them. Babysitting egos was never the assignment. Decorating someone else's delusions isn't in the job description. Awakening souls is why you're here. Activating truth, building something that can't be faked, real connection, divine alignment, eternal purpose. Being loved by the masses was never the mission for chosen ones. Finding the remnant was always the point. The ones who don't need you to shrink so they can feel big. The ones who don't fear your light because they carry their own. The ones who hear your voice and feel their spirit stir in recognition. Those are the only ones who truly matter. So no, being for everyone was never in the design, but being everything to the ones you were sent to, that power exceeds being liked by the entire world. Keep shining, keep walking, keep being exactly who you are without apology, without dilution, without compromise. Presence isn't performance, it's calling, and anyone who can't handle that was never meant to. That's the final word on why everybody wants you but not everyone can have you. That's exactly why the choosing happened. That's exactly why you were selected for this assignment on this planet at this exact moment in history. Walk in that truth. Own it completely, and let no one convince you to be anything less than the full force of what divine selection placed inside you, period. If these words reach something deep inside you, don't let this moment pass without action. Subscribe to join a community of awakened souls walking this path together. Like this message to help more chosen ones find the truth they desperately need. Drop your thoughts below, share your experiences, let your voice be heard. And if someone comes to mind who needs this, share it with them. Together, rising happens, awakening spreads, light shines brighter than ever before. God